Hello and welcome to SATV's International Affairs Talk Show. I am your host Shamsul Alam and we shall be discussing major world headlines today. Before I do so, let me introduce to you our panelists. We have Mr. Jawad Sharif, who is a fellow news broadcaster and today joining us as International Affairs commentator. We will also be joined by Mr. Salim Samad, who is currently stuck in traffic. As we await his arrival, let me tell you who he is. He is an independent journalist, a recipient of Ashoka Fellowship and a Helman Hamet Award, and also the Bangladesh correspondent of Reporters Without Borders, also known as RSF. I would like to begin today's talk show with a breaking news. This is regarding student visa issue in the United States of America. It has the entire global questioning whether America has lost its credibility as a provider of a tertiary education. At the hearing of the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee, a fiery exchange erupted between Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. This was obviously regarding a revocation of a Turkish student and the revocation of her visa. Her name is Rumeysa Öztürk. Ms. Congresswoman Jayapal claimed that the student had simply co-authored an op-ed in critical of Israel's policies. Rubio defended the move, asserting there is no constitutional right to a student visa and that he would be continuing to revoke visas in such cases. In addition to this, in April, the federal government froze more than $2.2 billion in grants and contracts to Harvard after school officials rebuffed the administration. Not only that, international students comprise about 27% of Harvard's student body. Mr. Jawad Sharif, my first question is to you. You're a regular follower of the most important policy-making decisions in America. In your opinion, do you see these tactics as defamatory to these centuries-old institutions?
You know, it is very interesting what's going on currently between the US government and the Ivy League institutions. So to start off, if we see the recent incidents between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Representative Pramila Jayapal, this was regarding a student who was a Turkish citizen, came on a student visa and studying in Tufts University, which is also one of the top university in the Ivy League institutions. She did co-author and op-ed critical of Israel's policies. Now, please notice that the First Amendment of the United States Constitution states that this is a freedom of speech. But does this apply for the people who comes in a visa, or it applies for the people who's the citizens of the United States? Now, it goes both ways. What the Democrats are trying to say is this applies for everybody that comes to the US. They have freedom of speech regardless of their visa status and citizenship status. Whereas Senator Marco Rubio, who's currently the Secretary of State, arguing that visa is a privilege. It is not a constitutional right. So anytime as students come from abroad, they should stick and focus on studying rather than giving anti-Semitism or personal opinions that kind of goes against the state's policies and also the constitutions of the United States of America. So in this regard, I would like to say it is not generally a defamatory statement. It's the difference in opinions between both parties. So Democratic Party is more liberals against the Republican Party, who is more conservative in nature. But something that really stood up, if you ask me, that the way that she was detained was unidentified masked agents from the agencies, from the lawful agencies. They did not identify themselves. They just picked her up right from the street. And it was kind of like she was treated as a terrorist. Senator Pramila Jayapal asked Rubio what she did to get this kind of behavior, what she did to deserve this kind of treatment. She's just a woman. She came here on a student visa. She's studying. She's doing her postgrad. Marco Rubio said that it might find the radical people, if they show their face, then the radical people might come against those agents, which is very absurd because these people are going after not a terrorist, somebody who's actually voiced their opinions. and wrote an op-ed. So that was kind of like the bottom line between the caucus that happened between the both senators, both representatives of the states. So it goes both ways. It is defamatory in one sense for the Democratic parties, but then again, it is a privilege for the Republican parties, and they're saying that this anti-Semitism movement are against the policies and constitution that the U.S. upholding.
Thank you, Mr. Sharif. I will definitely add on. There is news regarding the head of the American administration, Donald Trump. 2 hours ago, British broadcaster BBC said that Donald Trump had called Putin crazy following the largest Russian attack in Ukraine. In a rare rebuke, Donald Trump said, "What the hell happened to him? He is killing a lot of people," I end quote. He later called Putin absolutely crazy. Aside from a major prisoner swap last week, there was no or little progress in bringing a pause in the fighting on set. Russia currently holds about 20% of Ukrainian territory. This includes Crimea, Ukraine's southern peninsula, which was annexed by Moscow in 2014. My question to Mr. Sharif, has Donald Trump's mediation added fuel to the fire in regards to the UK-Russian war? What do you think?
Well, I'd like to think, if you see Donald Trump is indirectly a supporter of President Putin. So what he's trying to do between the Ukrainian President Zelensky and Putin, he's trying to negotiate a treaty, a peace treaty between both of them. If you see, President Volodymyr Zelensky recently visited the White House, and the stance that Donald Trump took against him was pretty remarkable. He was very vocal, and if you see, he was very bold in his statement that you need to really settle down and turn down your tone, stop asking for help from all over the world. Instead, you need to sit on a peace table and talk to Putin directly and sign up a peace treaty. To which first we saw Zelensky was very not optimistic about it. He actually went against it. But then again, he talked to the rest of the world leaders and came back to his senses. And he met Donald Trump on the next meeting. He conveys his regards on meeting President Putin. But that being said, Putin was also inclined to talk to Zelensky on those meets as well. For him to come around and attack Ukrainian people and to actually recently bombing the Ukrainian territory is completely a breach of agreement between the treaty between Ukraine and Russia to have the peace talk. And also it goes directly against what Donald Trump is trying to establish. So pretty much I would say that these attacks, this recent development that happened today, Donald Trump calling Putin was very crazy. It came because of the facts that Putin is very unpredictable as to what he's going to do, what his next approach is going to be,
yes.
Right? So he's going to come up to you, he's going to say, okay, we're supporting this and that, but he goes behind and he does something really crazy. But that is his stance of power. This is how he establishes himself superior from the other leaders of the world. He kind of goes against the book and do something that nobody's expecting. And that's how he established himself as a world leader.
Many thanks, Mr. Jawad Sharif. Most definitely, Vladimir Putin is very devious when making his state-level decision making. Not only so, we do see that Vladimir Putin's war chest that includes being very affirmative and assertive towards the NATO countries in Europe, not only just Ukraine. Today we are looking at Ukraine, but however, this has a very bad spillover effect, as you said. We must give notice here as we wait for our extended guest. Let me look at the Israel-Gaza issue. Spain hosted European and Arab nations yesterday in what we call as the Madrid Group. Spain has hosted 20 countries as well as international organizations on Sunday with the aim of stopping this war which no longer has any goal. This was obviously commented by Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Albares. He further reiterated that before the high-level UN conference set to take place in June 17th to recognize the two-state solution in France, in New York, which will be held by France and Saudi Arabia, Mr. Albares had specifically mentioned that this UN conference next month will be in order to give recognition to Palestine as an independent state. Mr. Sharif, How do you see this change in Europe? A bloc that was known to be in support of Israel, especially Spain, who has now agreed that this is a noted act of ethnic cleansing.
You see, Spain has been always a staunch supporter of the Palestinian people's rights. You know, this Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people in Gaza. If you go back in time, in international court, they're the one that actually first filed these cases against Israel, that they're inhabiting the lands occupied by the rightful occupants are the Gaza people of Palestine. Now, between European Union and Arab nations, the tri-table meetings that's been holding on, Spain is playing actually a very key role in trying to establish demonstrating the fact that these people deserves peace. They deserves what they've been fighting for, and the Israeli aggressions in the occupied lands, killing all the women and children, deceiving all kinds of activities, has been really not praiseworthy. So I think the steps by Spain and recently what the statement made by the Spanish foreign minister has been justifying what Spain is trying to establish to de-escalate the situation between Israel and Gaza.
Thank you once again. I will add on to this story. You've seen Donald Trump in the better part of last week. He was seen visiting Middle East, noted saying he first landed in Saudi Arabia. He lifted the sanctions on Syria, and Mohammed bin Salman, Prince Mohammed bin Salman, he stood up in a standing ovation and cheered Donald Trump. Of course, this would be the first notion where an Arab leader has done so for the American delegation. Not just that, afterwards he moved on to Qatar, where much of the talk was regarding how Qatar has gifted US Air Force One airplane to the position of POTUS, which is also known as the President of the United States of America. We also seen that this time around he did not visit Israel. I would want to know, why would Donald Trump create such a notion of not visiting Israel? Is there a further disengagement between US and Israel relations?
I would not put it this way. Look, this visit was precisely because he has personal relationship between the Middle Eastern countries, not as a president, but also as a businessman as well. He has personal relationships with MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, as well as the rulers of UAE and Qatar as well. So this time ahead, have you seen the treatment that he received and how it differs?
It was a massive treatment.
Yes, it is indeed, and also it is very different from how the ex-president of US, Joe Biden, received, right? And the kind of treatment they have and hospitality that they have shown Donald Trump was pretty unprecedented, if you ask me. That being said, Donald Trump had some few agendas that he went there for. It wasn't regarding the Israel and Gaza conflict. I'm sure that came about, especially the topic of lifting the sanctions against Syria. He met the Syrian president, the current Syrian president. I think the Syrian president was in a wanted list in US for a long time.
He is an ex-Al-Qaeda member, Ahmed al-Shara.
Ahmed al-Shara. So for him to go face to face, meet him, lift the sanction, that actually gives a very big message, and that was possible because of the steps that was taken by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, MBS. And not only that, this whole thing kind of revolved around the economic forums of Saudi Arabia's relationship with the US, because they've decided to invest $600 billion in energies and technologies and artificial intelligence and all other sectors. And also in Qatar, the Boeing orders that they have received from Qatari government, I think it was somewhere around $200 billion.
Yes, not just that, $140 million regarding to a whole different fleet of airplanes for American economy.
Right. And for them to actually give a $400 million worth of Air Force One, Boeing 747 to United States president is also very unprecedented also, because no other president has ever been offered a free gift like that. And Trump, being a businessman as well, he wouldn't say no. But currently what he's saying that the State Department has received the...
Yes, and most definitely incoming presidents will be receiving this aircraft as well.
So he's not doing it for personal purpose. He's actually modifying that for Air Force One purpose, for other presidents to fly even when they come into power as well. So for him to receive the gifts, it goes both ways. The democratic people are raising concerns against it. that it goes against the ethics, and the boundaries. And also they're seeing if he has violated any constitutional law. But for Trump being Trump, he's kind of unpredictable as well. He's going to take decision based on what he thinks is right for the country.
Thank you, Mr. George Sharif. Ladies and gentlemen, I previously spoke about Mr. Salim Samad. Due to traffic restrictions, he was late. However, he is now in our studio. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Definitely, Mr. Samad is an independent journalist, recipient of the Ashoka Award, and also the Bangladesh correspondent of Reporters Without Borders. I will be asking him regarding the Israel-Gaza issue. In a breaking news, according to Anadolu Agency, Israel's strike kills another Palestinian journalist in Gaza, with the death toll rising to 220. Hassan Majdi Abu Warda, the director of Bark Gaza News Agency, was killed in an Israeli airstrike. Mr. Salim Samad, you are a correspondent of Reporters Without Borders, which takes pride in protecting the freedom of information and of journalists. How do you see the straining of information in the war zone and in the numerous journalist casualties in this latest offensive?
Well, to be very frank, any war, any conflict, anywhere in the world, journalists always takes the of the conflict, and it's not important that the journalists will be saved and the soldiers will die, or the whoever is fighting in the war. So journalist wants to be on the fair front, especially the photographers. One of the worst casualties. You cannot take a drone to take a photograph. The photograph has to be physically there. Yes, it is very sad, and it has to be condemned. Whenever a journalist is killed, RSF, according to even Amnesty International or Committee to Protect Journalists, or even International Federation of Journalists, they of course they condemn every day, and they are tired condemning whatever is happening, especially in the conflict zone in Gaza. And journalists for some reason have to be in the forefront, and they have to. I mean, even if you look into Balochistan, in Pakistan, or even any war, or any wherever there is a civil war, journalists takes a toll. And I will not say that it is natural or it is a common phenomenon, but of course it has to be taken into consideration that their lives has to be protected. That is very important according to the United Nations. Every journalist, whoever is in the conflict zone, it is the responsibility of whoever in the conflict to ensure that the safety and security of the journalists are taken care of. But unfortunately, neither of the conflicting parties do take care of the journalists, and journalists has been even recently. So in one place in Iran, in Afghanistan, a journalist in the conflict zone was kidnapped by the government soldier, and he was shot and killed on the spot, despite giving all evidence of being a journalist. And I saw this documentary only a couple of days back. It is very unfortunate that many journalists, even like myself, I was in one conflict zone for 14 years in the Chittagong hill tracts when there was insurgency, and I was in the forefront. And I also, well, I was not killed, but I had to go through this so-called Aina Ghor, and of course this Rashtrapati Mamla and everything. So that is you have to either compromise. So journalists like me, a reporter like me in the conflict zone in Chittagong hill tract, I took that risk. Even my editor backed me. Of course, if I die, what will the editor do? Editor has nothing to do. The editor will never say that come back to the station. So I was there 14 years covering the entire insurgency until there was a surrender ceremony. So you can understand that this, for me, yes, both parties took some responsibility that I am safe and secure. But despite that, there are different agencies among the conflict zone. They don't want a journalist to report all the whatever is happening there. So I understand what is happening. Whoever covering the conflict zone in Kashmir, or especially in Balochistan, possibly, and if you want to go back to Gaza, Gaza is a death year for all the journalists. The number of journalists killed in 1 year in Gaza is equal to 35 years of journalists killed all over the world. So imagine the understanding of the situation. And of course, Turkey is the largest prison for journalists. That also has to be mentioned, next to China.
Thank you, Mr. Samad. I'll also add in here, right now the Gaza-Israel issue, we know that Qatari-based news agency Al Jazeera does not have an independent journalist in the field and is not allowed to report. However, the only reporting that we can see online and offline on television is backed by the Israeli media. Most definitely, thank you, Mr. Samad, for your question. I will now come back. I have a complement question to Mr. Jawad Sharif. You are also a seasoned news broadcaster. How do you see this immediate and, if not very drastic, action towards the media presentations or the media outcomes regarding to conflict? We will definitely add in the Israel-Gaza issue here. But you can also see that most of the land of Ukraine, almost 20% of Ukraine territory has been ceded to the Russian side. I've mentioned before the Russia annexed Crimea. How do you think, as a news broadcaster, the effects that it brings to the world stage?
Well, it does subsequently, as Mr. Salim has mentioned, that journalists, especially in the midst of both this war going on right now between Israel and Gaza and Ukraine and Russia, I think in both cases they are not being able to actually perform and broadcast the actual news because of the litigations and the jurisdictions provided by the dominating countries. In one case, it's Israel against Gaza, and anybody, especially Al Jazeera, you said, they cannot, they are unable to provide the independent reporting, and also only reporting that's been provided by the state-backed media in Israel. Same goes for Ukraine as well. If you see 20% territory annexed by Russia already against Ukraine. If anybody goes there and try to get details of how these things occurred and the aggression that's been taking place, I think he's going to have to face the full wrath of the Russian government, especially President Putin. So in both cases, especially Mr. Salim was mentioning about, he's a member of Reporters Without Borders. So I think there's an agency based in France, and they actually take out all the journalists, especially journalists who's politically discriminated and seeking asylums. So these journalists, if they're able to travel to one of these countries, they can provide independent and subsequently very transparent news. But I'm sure they're unable to do so because their own state media is representing these countries are unable to provide the accurate news. So from a news broadcaster's perspective, it is a very conflicting situations right now going on both places, and I think these things needs to be looked at from the UN perspective as well. The UN should provide safety security for these media covered journalists that's been going on there, and make sure that they're taken care of in the entire dire situations. But for this current situation, I don't think that they're being treated properly, and the journalists are being discriminated, and in various places. Recently, I've mentioned that in Gaza, one of the very popular, famous journalists has been killed there. Where's the news for that? It's not being covered. Donald Trump is calling Putin crazy, but a seasoned journalist who has actually dedicated his life covering this news, he's been killed in an attack, and it's not been mentioned anywhere. It's not dominating the world news. So this is always, there's a discriminations going on against a journalist. That needs to be looked at, and tighter enforcement has to be done from the UN perspective as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharif. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall be talking about the Turkey-Pakistan meeting and how it adds on to the India's growing distaste with Turkey and certain developments in South Asia. Do stay with us as we head for a commercial break.
খান ছাড়া আমি বাঁচবো না, আমি মরে যাবো।
ও মাই গুডনেস, এটা ব্যাং। কাটা গাছে তোতা পাখি, ডালিম গাছে বউ, এত ডাকি তবু কথা কয় না কেন বউ?
How do you do it? Oh, like this. আল্লাহ, এটা কি গো?
I guess এটা চকলেট।
ভালো।
Oh, I got it. It's data.
So এটা ডেটা শাক না, এটা ডাটা শাক।
1 10 2 11 1 10 3 13 1 10 4 11।
বেগুনি আমি জানি না আসলে বেগুনি ইংলিশ, তো আমার ভুল হইতে পারে।
নাই টিকটক, নাই ফেসবুক।
মুরগির বাচ্চা। যাই হোক চেহারাটা আমার মতোই লাগতেছে।
সামনে ইসলাম নীলা।
আমি জানতে চাচ্ছিলাম দ্বিতীয় বিয়ের জন্য কি চাপবো। বিশেষজ্ঞ বললেন প্রথম বইয়ের গলা চাপুন।
ডায়লগস সুবাসিত হাইজিনিক ক্লিনার প্রেজেন্টস ফ্রাইডে নাইট দেখবেন প্রতি শুক্রবার রাত 9:30
Joined with Mr. Salim Samad and Mr. Jawad Sharif. Before I ended or went towards a break, we were talking about Turkey and Pakistan. I have a breaking news. Turkish President Erdogan receives Pakistani Prime Minister Sharif in Istanbul. The Turkey-Pakistan bilateral relations will be further discussed in this meeting, which of course took place in Dolmabahce Palace in Istanbul. The meeting was regarding regional and global issues, which specifically focused on energy, transportation and defense. A train route through Islamabad into Tehran and Turkey was discussed. I will take Mr. Sharif's attention in this following question. When Pakistan and India were in conflict, we've seen that Turkey was backing Pakistan with the necessary munitions. This sparked a large outcry in India with the slogan, "Boycott Turkey." Do you think that with this move, India would lose out on the military developments that Turkey offers?
Certainly, I would definitely say so because of the recent development that's been taking place between Pakistan and Turkey, with Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif visiting Turkey President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And I'd like to mention few things that's been taking place and how it's actually impacted the relationships between particularly Turkey and India after this forthcoming meeting. Defense, energy, transportations and technological intelligence support against terrorism has been offered by Turkey towards Pakistan. And Ankara strongly denied sending weapons to Pakistan, which is, I think, it's a very strategic movement, trying to stay neutral between the conflict between India and Pakistan. Erdogan expressed his solidarity with Pakistan in this regard after India conducted attacks on 9 sites inside Pakistan, especially after the incidents that have taken place in Kashmir, Pahalgam, where tourists were killed, and India straightforwardly blaming Pakistan, and the war took place. You know, it did happen in April 22nd, but aftermath of this this war is trying to Turkey is actually trying to mitigate the escalation, de-escalate the situation, supporting the international equality. But I have to address to you that this relationship between Turkey and Pakistan, it goes actually way back than recent visit of the prime ministers. Turkey's Erdogan visited back in February. He visited Islamabad and he signed 24 cooperation agreements supporting the bilateral ties between Pakistan and Turkey. So they have had actually very strategic and wonderful relationships between both countries way ahead of this war even started. So it is very forthcoming for India to predict that Turkey is supplying weapons and all kinds of support, strategic support for Pakistan to continue with this war. Indian Foreign Minister Jaiswal, he made few comments. I have to address this to you.
Please.
That he said that these kind of escalations and provocations by Turkey is only doing damage to the relationships between India and Turkey. And the aftermath of these, how it impacted, is India started boycotting the Turkish products, chocolates, coffee, jams, cosmetics and clothing. In particularly this Flipkart website that's owned by Mukesh Ambani, which actually promoting a lot of Turkish brand clothes. They have actually taken this off of their sites. So that is a direct message to Turkey that your support towards Pakistan is going to impact the socio-economic bilateral ties between India and Turkey. And recently they have removed the security clearance of a Turkish-based aviation ground heading firm called Celebi.
Right.
So that is also something noteworthy as well. So it is impacting, you know, and the Turkey's import towards India is at $2.7 billion in goods, you know, but mostly it's mineral fuels and precious metals. So the only country that's going to be impacted if they actually stop this import war is India, because they are the receiving end of the fossil fuel and the precious metal. So between this India and Turkey relationship, I would say that it has definitely taken some toll aftermath of this war because of Turkish biasness towards Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. Sharif. I will now question Mr. Samad. He has definitely mentioned Turkey before. As stated by Mr. Sharif, there is a $2.7 billion trade with regards to India and Turkey. How do you see this going down? Turkey is now playing a massive role in regional stability or peace. Mr. Samad, what do you have for us?
First of all, we have to understand that in 60s, there was a forum called the RCD, Regional Cooperation League. So RCD was Turkey, Iran and Pakistan. And I still remember I bought a stamp which mentioned about RCD and first anniversary. So there was literally a cooperation since several decades. I mean, it's more than 10 decades. So that's one very important. Iran is missing from the middle. Iran is not in good friends with Turkey as well as with Pakistan. But apart from that, Turkey wants to be the Muslim Ummah or Muslim leader among especially the Turkey, especially Erdogan is having problem with the Gulf, especially with Prince Salman, because Salman also doesn't want to
most definitely there was a reporter killing that happened regarding
and it happened in Turkey. And
yes.
Nothing has happened.
Yes.
Turkey couldn't make any dent into that investigation, and
Right.
they couldn't prove that Saudi was involved in
some extent.
Khashoggi's death.
Yes.
Correct.
But coming back to this relationship, Turkey, of course, is one of the best country technologically building this drone, especially the military drone. So obviously they have to need a market, and of course they had a market in the Ukraine war, but now they had a very good successful drone attacks or drone war in recently in the Kashmir conflict. So obviously Turkey wants to be, but Turkey and Uzbekistan, who have lent support to Pakistan, that country is also, Central Asia is also in trouble with India, the conflict with India, because India was a major economic partner, especially with business and trade. But coming to the relation with Turkey and India, yes, I am not sure why India would take this responsibility in letting the importers to not to import anything from Turkey. That will be a major disaster in the economic, because it is not few $1 million, it is several $1 billion.
Yes.
And you cannot stop it, because there is a huge market in India, especially for the Turkish product, and of course vice versa. Even and Turkey is technologically, especially they are very much forward than in India. So obviously you have to depend on Turkish technological products. Number one, I mean they from fighter aircraft to a warship, they build everything, and of course they also build one of the best drone in this
the Bayraktar
continent.
drones, yes.
So obviously I don't think this. Obviously I know India must be going crazy, especially the South Bloc with their regional cooperation. But I believe this will not last because the consumers will be feeling the pinch of the shoe if the trade is easy, because many of the products are imported from Turkey, and it's not, I mean, as you said, the few $1 billion, and few $1 million is a huge importing from Turkey. We are not sure how much of Indian products are sold in Turkey.
Right.
But maybe you can say that better. But it's very important that this will not, because the traders are more united. They don't care about this Modi's government, and
Right.
they also don't care about this Godi media. So they will not possibly will bypass. And of course, you can bring any Turkish product to a third country. I mean, it has happened in even when Bangladesh also imported from a banned country, came to a third country.
It came to a third country, yes.
This you cannot stop a consumer not getting a product. From tomorrow, you will not get this coffee mug. That's impossible. So obviously, they will have to go to a third country, and most importantly, that Pakistan is in a thick soup. They have a serious problem in Balochistan. They have a serious problem in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. They have a serious problem inside East. So the entire region, Balochistan. So obviously, they need friends. But Pakistan needs not only do not need new enemies, but they need the new friends to back them up, because in Balochistan you have to have a civil war. You have to have enough war material to make sure that the Baloch Liberation Army is not making much in the region. Of course, Baloch has their own mindset and own political vision, and they were once an independent country. That we have to agree. It was the independent country much before Pakistan and India. It was given by the Governor General in presence of Nehru and Jinnah. So obviously, Balochistan will have not accepted that. Even today is the fourth generation they are fighting in that war. So obviously, they need help. They need equipment. They need to fight this, and that is a huge area. Balochistan is the largest province in the region, which is double the size of Bangladesh. So obviously, they need equipment, and especially satellite images, and of course this drone. So Turkey is one of the best proven all-weather ally.
Thank you, Mr. Samad. Definitely, you were talking about the Balochistan insurgency. Definitely, a minister in Pakistan's cabinet, Ataullah Tarar, he definitely thinks this Balochistan issue to be significant in Pakistan politics. We will now move on to the last story of today. Pakistan, Afghanistan move towards restoring ties in talks with China. As India strengthens ties with Kabul, Pakistan and Afghanistan return to the table in an attempt by the Chinese mediation. In an informal trilateral meeting held in Beijing on May 21st, the Foreign Minister of China, Pakistan, and Afghanistan convened under a forum which was first launched in 2017. As you know, the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative will now respectfully give access and extend towards Afghanistan. Definitely, right now, the establishment in Afghanistan is by the Taliban. While China urged restraint between India and Pakistan, its support for Pakistan was evident in the front lines in the conflict, especially with the Pakistani military using Chinese fighter jets, missiles and air defense systems. China does, in fact, share hostile intentions with regards to India's seven sisters as well. Another question to Mr. Samad. Amidst this month's tensions between India and Pakistan, has India lost all its friends in its neighborhood? So much so that Indian delegation was in South Korea's Seoul for an anti-terrorism talk. Mr. Samad, what do you have for us?
You're very right. I always mention the word called South Bloc. The South Bloc is supposed to follow the wisdom of their Chanakya, who in fact gave this world a new wisdom for diplomacy. But now it seems that they have totally eradicated, deleted, or possibly ignoring the wisdoms of Chanakya, who had been one of the best peacemaker in this region. So, if you look into all the neighbors, from China, even Nepal, I just returned from Nepal. I wrote an article about India-Nepal relations, which published yesterday in an international media. So, and I could understand that even Nepal, despite they do not use a placard or do not march to the embassy, but all the, everybody in India, in Nepal is silently anti-Indian, or they dislike Indians as a tourist. So you can understand that they have conflict with, and all with dispute with the land, which is very important, with land. Territories. They believe that India is claiming territory in Nepal, India is claiming territory, China is claiming territory in India. Same with in Bangladesh, we have recently, the Godi media was totally against after the fall of Sheikh Hasina, and she fled to Delhi, and the entire media, even in the government, had been hostile to this new interim government. Sri Lanka is another example, which is India couldn't make any dent in the bilateral relationship, and Maldives, of course, could compromise at certain level. But I just spoke to a Maldivian journalist. He's a very high-profile person, and he told me that the relationship in the ministry, in the government, has not been able to make any goodwill gesture to the India, except shaking hands with Narendra Modi. Otherwise, yes. And Pakistan, of course, need not be discussed here, because it is very important that they do not have any friends in the neighbor. And that's one of the reasons that they are totally against this revival of SAARC, which Professor Yunus had been advocating for the last several weeks, months. So you can understand they are not interested in SAARC. BIMSTEC has come to a blockade because of the relationship with Bangladesh and India. The bilateral, especially the trucking, the trucks which are supposed to go to Nepal,
yes.
The trucks which are directly according to the BIMSTEC, the agreement. So nothing is working. So obviously everything is now in a standstill, and I am not sure whether India is an observer in OIC. And also they couldn't make any dent because dent among the Islamic world, among the Arabs especially, regarding the relationship. Yes, they have relationship also with Israel. They also have a relationship with all the Arab countries or the Arabic speaking countries, but the situation is not very good. And of course, if you go far away, the 7 seas and the 13 rivers, there is Canada. is also
Yes.
not very happy with India,
India.
and
Current
India,
situation,
and especially with the
They've
United
each
States.
other expelled each other's diplomats.
Yes, even in India, I mean, even in United States, that Indian diplomat, that RAW, whoever is in whatever position, he was indicted for espionage and for responsible for assassination. So you can see they are failing in their diplomatic relation front, especially.
Thank you, Mr. Samad. I'll have one last question to Mr. Sharif. Definitely, we know in the news King Charles and Queen Camilla has arrived in Canada. And according to Mr. Samad, we know that Canada and India has hostilities regarding to the Khalistan issue. How do you see India? How will the 21st century India respond to the likes and the leadership of Narendra Modi? Needless, I say, Narendra Modi had not had a very lovely career growing up. How do you think about it?
Well, it all started, which is a very supreme Sikh community in Canada. One of their leaders was assassinated outside of a temple. This
Hardeep
is
Singh.
what actually, yes, escalated the situation from the get-go, which resulted in the ex-Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, standing up on a Congress meeting and directly accusing India of contemplating these assassinations and being in the directly involvement. And that's what actually started straining the relationships between India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And ever since then, things have been very difficult with them expelling their delegates from each other's countries. But recently, you know, I have just been notified that the British Prince, I think, British King, right? King Charles,
yes.
and
King Charles.
Queen Camilla has been visiting Canada, and he's set to make statements after 50 years, I think. So it is actually trying to downsize the current situations between Canada and India. I think it's going to play a vital role. So let's see how it comes about.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharif. As I draw a conclusion, many thanks to Mr. Salim Samad and Mr. Jawad Sharif for the deep insights and contribution to SATV's International Affairs Talk Show. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, today is the 26th of May, which is celebrated and commemorated as the Independence Day of Georgia from the aftermath of the Russian Revolution. In addition, today is also the Independent Day of Guyana from the British Empire. That's it for today. I will be bringing you the latest in world news in tomorrow's installation of International Affairs. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.